Hello, good morning everyone, and welcome to We Start Bootcamp. My name is Divya Lakshmi. I'm working as Assistant Manager HR at KSUM Startup Mission. I'm the host for today's session. Today, we'll be going through multiple sessions which include panel discussion, interactive and hands-on training section, which will cover how gig economy works, the opportunities and challenges in freelancing, choosing what skill required to freelance, setting up your profile and finding work using freelancing platform, evaluating job and sending your proposal, and getting into freelance job. Kerala Startup Mission, the nodal organization that supports the startup ecosystem in the state of Kerala, is organizing this bootcamp as one of the event in the Women Startup Summit 2020, which targets women professionals aiming their talent to be showcased productively and providing them a flexible work environment. So welcome you all again. Please give me a moment to share with a presentation with you. Hope you can see the presentation. So, about Kerala Startup Mission. Kerala Startup Mission is recognized as top performer by Government of India consecutively. KSUM provides a variety of programs and schemes that cater to startups. We extend support in terms of infrastructure and facilities, funding, mentor connects, business connects, etc. to students, aspiring entrepreneurs, and tech startups. We have incubation centers in Trivandrum, Cochin, Calicut, Palakkad, Kannur, and Kasaragod, and innovation and entrepreneurship nodes across Kerala in 281 centers. This picture shown in the slide is the Technology Innovation Zone of Kerala Startup Mission in Kochi. So, about We Start program. As I mentioned, our bootcamp We Start is an initiative of Kerala Startup Mission designed as a freelancer track for women. The program We Start is initiated because of specific problems faced by the professional women segment with respect to the non-flexibility to work due to the commitments that they have. They do not lack skills or urge to work, but doesn't have the right medium to channelize their talent. Under the 4 general universities in Kerala, around 71.54% of girls are enrolled for degree courses in arts and science colleges, and this percentage drops drastically when it comes to technical streams. Even though Kerala has highly educated or graduated women on one hand, the workforce participation in the organized sector is low. Certain social reasons act as barriers. One among it is, women are considered as the main caregivers in the family. That restricts them from stepping out of home to work. To address this gap, Kerala Startup Mission has initiated certain women support programs in which We Start is designed for professional interest in exploring career options which allow them to work from home at flexible hours. It is basically meant for the early stage support for women who are aspiring to get into 4 segments: freelance project, technology ventures, asset-light business, and MSMEs. Even though gig economy started its wave, the actual impact of it was scaled with the hit of COVID-19. This COVID scenario made a drastic impact with respect to gig economy, for thinking about gig and actual practice of working it in the gig economy. You have to ask this question to yourself. Are you good at what you do? If your answer is yes, then it is time to kickstart your freelance career with Kayla Startup Mission to the V-Start program. We'll guide you how this system works. Today's session will help you to understand more about how gig economy works, how freelancing works, choosing what skill to freelance that can be freelanced, and how to find the right job. So, the plan of action for this program is this is an 8-week incubation targeted program targeted for 10 participants in the bootcamp, and the selection is based on the profile creation during the hands-on session this time. And this will be the first batch, and the process will be recurred later. In this bootcamp, the main 3 points which will be taken care of are learning the basics of running a business, understanding opportunity landscape, and experience sharing by established peers. And why this freelancing makes sense for talented resources. So, technology has now reached at each doorstep and flexible working time has become reality. There is no doubt that companies and organizations are increasingly deciding to rely on independent talents due to its many advantages. Few reasons for this include the higher flexibility of job, social, economical, and technological reasons. The trend of freelancing is visible after the impact of technology over the last few years. Some people cannot follow the timing of regular office time due to our social structure, or it is hard for them to balance work and life. For some others, freelance job would be a side earning or their interest in skill-based small jobs. The economic meltdown due to the COVID situation has affected business, and therefore the regular job opportunities have become limited for the time being. The companies are not able to provide full-time job and are forced to cut down the manpower or salary to maintain their financial stability. It's hard for the graduates to get into regular job since the opportunities are less. Companies started relying on freelancers as this model benefits them economically by reduced overhead cost for permanent hires, and they can take advantage of worldwide talents. All these paved way for the opportunity for freelancers. The advantage is that you can be independent, can choose the job as per your skill set, and can work for one or for a variety of employers. Recent studies says that around by 2020, the percentage of freelance job opportunities to 70%. Hence, career of freelance has its perks. With this, I would like to take you to the next schedule of the day. The speaker for the next session is Mr. Gopal Ananthanarayan Iyer, who is seasoned talent leader with over 17 years of experience working with large multinational organizations across various industries and geographies. Currently with EY Global Delivery Services, Gopal leads the Gig Now, a program that has a specific focus on attracting and engaging with people for gig assignments in EY GDS. He is a speaker in various HR norms and has spoken on numerous topics like the future skill in the world of HR, the future of work, the rise of gig economy, the relevance of current skills. He is a strategic management postgraduate from Indian Institute of Management Kozhikode, a global human resource professional, and a certified career transition coach. I take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Gopal Ananthanarayan Iyer, Associate Director, Talent, Ernst & Young Global Delivery Services. To you, Mr. Gopal.
Thanks, Divya, for setting the context. I think Mr. Gopal is finding some difficulty in connecting. He's just connecting. Let's wait for a couple more minutes so that
Yes.
he will join. Meanwhile, a request to all the participants here. If you have any questions in between, please feel free to type in the questions in the Q&A tab right there. So we'll take the questions towards the end. We'll filter the question and put it across to Mr. Gopal at the end. Right? Is that how we want to do it, right, Divya?
Yes, right.
And also, since we have, I mean, we are finding this difficulty and we have some time with this, because all the participants also to kind of gain your expectation from the restart session also, so that we also know that what you are expecting through this sessions and in the coming sessions also, like in the gig economy or in the other sessions like how the freelancing goes, the panel discussion. So if you can just type in your expectation and what you want to hear more about, probably we can nudge our kind of speakers to kind of talk more on those lines also. Thank you. I guess Mr. Gopal could join us. Hello, sir. Are you there?
Hello, yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect. Well and sound, sir.
Perfect. Sorry, I had the issue in getting in, so probably got
Perfectly
a
fine.
little late.
I mean, since we got some couple more minutes extra, we were kind of engaging with the participants also. And
Sure.
perfectly fine. So, Divya had already done the context setting. Over to you, Divya, so that you can kind of introduce once again Mr. Gopal and kind of start the session.
Sure, sure. So, welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Gopal Andaran Iyer, who is a seasoned talent leader with over 17 years of experience working in large multinational organizations across the industries and geographies. Currently with EY Global Delivery Service, Gopal leads Gig Now, a program that has a specific focus on attracting and engaging with people in gig assignment at EY GDS. He is a speaker in various HR forums and has spoken on numerous topics like the future skills in the world of HR, the future of work, the rise of gig economy, the relevance of current skills. He is a strategic management postgraduate from IIM Kozhikode and a global human resource professional and certified talent transition coach. So over to you, sir, and welcome you again.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to be trying to share my screen. Could you confirm if you can see the PPT?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So, firstly, thank you very much for this opportunity. I think I've had the privilege to be part of this forum earlier as well. So, I know the crowd that is attending today will be keen to understand what is it that we space, and of course, what the future holds in terms of the jobs and careers. I'll try to be as brief as possible today in terms of what I'm going to share, and keep it open for Q&A. But feel free to stop me and ask me any questions. I would need someone to prompt me if there are any questions on the chat, because I can't. I mean, in the current forum and the platform, I can't see the questions coming in. So request you to help me, Divya, on that piece if you can.
Sure, sir, sure.
Perfect. All right. So as you all know, I represent EY GDS. Some of the content that I'm sharing on a view will be my personal perspectives as well, and not necessarily anything that is from an EY standpoint. And of course, a lot of what we are sharing today will be our point of view as the firm on how we see through various conversations that we have had with industry bodies, leaders, and the way work has been moving in the recent past. So we'll discover all of that. But to begin with, as I say, we in EY have the purpose of building a better working world. And we can't build a better working world unless and until we ask better questions, because only when you ask better questions, you'll get better answers. And then you create a better working world. Um, so I would have my share of better questions for all of you as we move along through these conversations, and would really love your perspectives on the chat as well, as to what you think of these better questions. So the first question for all of you is: in your career, will you tick all the right boxes or think outside them? And I'll We'll discover how we will be able to tick outside them as we move along this journey. Um, what is happening right now? And I think um, in terms of the future of work in itself, we've heard this term multiple times. But what exactly is future of work? And why is it being spoken about so much, right? What is Industry 4.0, and what is the impact of COVID on the same? Modern workforce realities. So the realities for you and I and everyone who is working today, not necessarily which generation they belong to, or what kind of work they do. Um, a bit on collaborative economy or gig economy, as you may have heard. And how can you reimagine your career and think and rethink in many ways about setting yourself up for success to embrace the gig economy, and about Gig Now as well, which is our flagship program where we try and attract the gig talent for various roles that we have within EY. So, COVID was something that we didn't see coming, as a nation, as well as a planet, I would say, where we thought, okay, this may be something very unique to one of the cities in China, and probably it's not going to spread as much. But I think what we saw in the last 11 months is wide-scaled pandemic, which impacted every country in the world, and it had an impact which not just was a health issue, but it became an economic crisis as well. So COVID-19 has been, in many ways, health and an economic crisis all at once. This resulted into several countries going through recession, and we'll discover why of that in just a bit. But it resulted into unemployment, and which you can see the number 23.4. Probably it's going to be higher depending upon where you are in the world. Over 25 million jobs could be lost worldwide as a result of COVID-19, says ILO, which is International Labour Organization. This number could be higher as we speak as well. But I think in the last couple of months, where we've seen some bit of work starting again, it may have had an impact where the number may be slightly lower as well. But why did all that happen, and how it did impact us? So the impact on businesses, as you see, when COVID happened, most of the countries were, to begin with, in denial. But when they really saw it impacting their country and countrymen or women, the first reaction to COVID was lockdown. And this is not just unique to India. I mean, every country used that as a first step to contain the pandemic, which led to a lot of businesses shut down temporarily, and I think it also impacted them negatively in many ways, because the way the nature of the business works, for example, aviation or hospitality, it's daily book of business that matters to them the most, and when that doesn't happen, it has a cascading effect on how everything works around them. Led to loss of customers due to economic slowdown, and in many ways due to the lockdown as well. Like, we stopped traveling, we stopped buying goods because the shops were closed. A lot of plans around spending got paused because of it, and people are not spending as much as they used to do in the past, and that led to a lot of slowdown in the business as well. Um, Demand and supply have become erratic, and I think if you see what you would have planned to buy in January, February, March, to what it is available, and what would your thought be to buy things today, I think there is a huge change. During the lockdown, there was a phenomenon of buying a lot more to probably save for tomorrow. But today, I think we have stopped ourselves from buying too much because supply is available in abundance. But we're very cautious about what we are buying, and whether do we really need to buy some of these things. So the pattern has shifted from need want based buying to need based buying. Um, Remote operations, which I think all of us saw, was not possible for everybody. At least within the ITES sector, remote working is possible. But think about a manufacturing industry. Think about an industry which cannot operate in a remote environment. Um, e- Educational institutions, state-run educational institutions specifically, or banks for that matter, or manufacturing industries for that matter, MSMEs for that matter. They couldn't operate remotely, and I think that was made a lot more evident in the lockdown phase, which resulted into a lot of business losses as well. Excuse me. We saw consumption patterns shifting. I would have bought XYZ things in a typical year. For example, I would know that at the end of the year, I would need to take my vacation. I would drive down somewhere. I would go for a vacation to a foreign country. All of that today is changing because of various reasons. Earlier, I probably did not need as much internet connection at home. Today I need internet connection a lot more with a better speed, a high and a lot more data, because everything is happening through internet because I'm working from home as well. So there is consumption patterns that are shifting. Liquidity crunch, we saw this happen a lot during lockdown, but I think there are initiatives taken by the government which has eased out the liquidity crunch that we saw during the lockdown. But it continues to be a challenge for a lot of people even now. Manufacturing is extremely challenging in times like these. First, there was no activity. Then we started some activities with reduced staff, which impacted the output. Then we started activities with full blown staff, but with a lot of restrictions. So I think if you would really ask, are we back to the pre-COVID days in terms of manufacturing? The answer would be no, and I think it will take some time, and no one knows if we would be ever back into pre-COVID days because of various factors that we have already spoken about. Uh, and a lot of people had and who depended heavily on the daily transactions of their businesses had taken quite a lot of money from banks in terms of loans, but because of the inability to sell and there is no revenue, it is resulting into a situation where the debt situation across these MSME sectors or people at large is ballooning, and government is taking measures towards that as well. But it's going to be extremely challenging for people at the grassroots level to be able to come out of the situation. Now, how is it impacting employers, job seekers, people like you and me? A lot of organizations, and I don't think there will be organizations who can claim to say that we did not get impacted. Everybody got impacted, and I think a lot of organizations went for hiring pause. First, driven by the lockdown. Second, now by the lack of demand or lack of clarity about demand. um, Adoption or shifting in hiring patterns. People said, we will not hire you now, we will probably hire you next year. Or people said, the role is no longer available. And if you still want to work with us, we may not be able to give you a full-time role. Um, Adoption of remote working has become almost a non-negotiable. I think unless and until we find vaccine, unless and until we find every citizen in the country vaccinated, and kind of get to a zone where we feel comfortable going back to offices in the scale that we used to do in the past. There will be remote working, and it is going to be an integral part of every person's life, no matter what industry you are in. So I think that's a good positive change in my view in many ways. Existing policies around compensation and benefits are being really relooked at, because what I used to get an LTA allowance in the past. I used to get probably an allowance to commute to office, but today I'm spending much more on internet bills, electricity bills. I need to invest into furnitures for sitting and having the work done out of my desk. So organizations are willing to offer support for that, which I think will continue in the near future as well, and may become an integral part of the compensation and benefits package. Labor laws, taxation laws are were designed rather, and continue to be the way it is, with a view that people come to an organization into an office premise, the factories set up in many ways. But today, with the work getting shifted to the respective houses, there is a need for us to relook at these taxation laws and labor laws to say, okay, how do we then determine what is taxable? The Special Economic Zone Act, I think, has to be relooked at as well, and several such. And I think government is taking a look at that. But I think their first priority, of course, is to ensure that people are safe, and we are able to, in many ways, contain the pandemic as much as possible. So, with that, um, especially for women, I think if you really look at economic stress on families has increased pressure on women towards ensuring family well-being. A lot of women across any industry for that matter have come back and said it is getting extremely difficult to manage through these times, because there is very little support that we're getting. Maids, I think, who played a huge role in supporting the household chores, uh, also were deeply impacted because of the lockdown and pandemic, and I think continues to impact everything that we do on a day in day out basis. Lockdown impacted women in terms of access to basic amenities like healthcare, especially pregnant and disabled women. COVID 19 to have catastrophic impact on women, with domestic abuse up 20% during lockdown. And this is not something that I'm saying, it's a research by United Nations. So pre-COVID 19 decisions will have no relevance in the post COVID 19 world, and there will be a new normal. And I think there are several reports that suggest that there will be a new normal, next normal, about everything that we do. Leave aside just the jobs aspect that we are talking about today. So, as the world transforms, is the future of work already here? That's another better question that I have for you. And I would love to hear your perspectives on the chat section, if you think yes, or if you think no. Um, Workforce, people like you and I, require different set of experiences today, right? I mean, our needs and wants and expectations from our employers have changed, and flexibility is of utmost importance. People prefer working remotely and flexible working hours, and that's what makes them feel valued. And this is not just about COVID; it's even beyond that, for that matter. Uh, we all want and prefer meaningful career experiences, a lot of growth opportunities, and I think that's what we see in every generation of workforce that we are working with today. I mean, there is a stat which says workforce of today has people from 5 generations. So you would have a 20-year-old and you would have a 60-year-old plus as well, which makes it extremely unique for people to learn to work with each other, which I think is not an easy task, without knowing why do we do what do we do. There is a focus or high focus on culture. Uh, every survey, everything that we do today revolves around organizational culture. We want adaptive learning where everything has to be on demand. I mean, don't put us into a classroom session where I have to sit and listen to someone for 5 days a week. It could be on demand, like give me an app where I can go and learn whatever I can at the pace that suits me the most. So I think a lot of organizations are investing into that as well. Empowerment, people would or do love the aspect of um, leading to diversity of opinions and broader ideas and autonomy, and that's what makes us feel empowered. uh, Positive reinforcement, instant feedback, timely feedback, instant recognition, timely recognition are things that people want today. I mean, gone are the days when there was an annual appraisal cycle where at the end of the year you're told whether you did well or you didn't. Everything has to be a lot more real time, and that's what a lot of organizations are moving towards. Exchange of values, experiential learning is all the more important today, because I think collectively we have gathered so many number of years of experience today that I think it is utmost important that we end up sharing that with our peers and colleagues, and make learning out of it, because the content is just going to get recycled. It is the story, it is the different perspective that we would prefer getting from a lot of people. And a lot of organizations across industries have evolved to understand that it is the employee experience that is going to lead to better customer experience. So I would rather focus on bettering the employee experience, and ensure that people are happy with the way things are getting done at the workforce. So how did we evolve to here, and how did we and what do we see happening in the workforce situation around us? I'm just going to take a sip of water, if you don't mind. Um, so I would like to share a small story here, personal story. Um, my mom or mother used to work for Central Railways, and she joined the railways in 1970s. And railways at that point of time was still very need based model, where okay, we would have trains connecting major cities predominantly. I will take a route that where I get popular demand for people to grow. And look at who used to travel in the past. I mean, people who would typically be studying, typically businessmen, um, uh, and the demand driving force was only during vacations, where summer vacations saw huge spike in the requirement for trains, or even other vacations like Dasera or Sankranti in some cases. But more or less around the year, there would be spikes, predictable spikes in the demand around these vacation times. And it didn't warrant us to really do anything different or more than what used to happen. Uh, and I think the way the organization was set up was to manage the labor. And I remember a lot of conversations that I've had with my mom about how people used to be employed at railways. Like everyone, be it an administrative office or be it someone within the motorman community, or people who make coaches, or people who take care of your tracks and signaling systems, all were employees. And there was very little emphasis that was given on part-time workers, or contractors or gig workers, until I think about 80s or early 90s, and which is when I think India was slowly opening its door to liberalization with its policies around finances. Uh, there was a lot of demand, and there were a lot of people growing and migrating towards bigger cities from smaller towns in search of job, and that was resulting into a lot more demand by people for various additional trains, etc. And I think if you look at this is where we were in 1980s and 90s, or 70s 80s predominantly. When 90s came in, and when the computerization started a lot more being openly done, and there were several factors which drove computerization, predominantly automation and better customer service and better predictability of the businesses. And this was done to cater to the needs of people, and needs of people were increasing day by day because of the growth in population as well. This A classic example of that is, again, there were very little, or probably three or four or one or two trains from Mumbai to Kanyakumari, which typically traveled from Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, again Andhra Pradesh, then Tamil Nadu, and then Kerala, and then Tamil Nadu again. And it used to take at least about 36 to 40 hours of journey between Mumbai to Kanyakumari. And if you saw, a lot of tracks were single laned. There was not much of electrification that was done. There was very little automation that was done. And suddenly, with spike in demands and the growth aspect of the business, there was a need for agility, there was a need for speed. And the government realized that they had to do something, and they can't do it all together. So they needed public and private partnership as well. And a classic example of that is Konkan Railways, right? When Konkan Railways came in, we saw a lot of great ideas come in. A lot of money was pumped into the system. A lot of money was brought in from public. A lot of money and access to high skilled labor, consultants, part timers, freelancers were brought in. And I think if you see, a hybrid model was what was best used in the Konkan Railways example. With a lot more digitization that happened, and again, classically, the IRCTC. Earlier, we used to go to platforms to book tickets, and we used to probably. I mean, I remember days when my dad used to go I would say 60 days in advance, sleep overnight at the platform to book a ticket next day morning. Though my mom was in railways, so there was no preferential treatment given. You still had to take the pass that you would take and then get the tickets booked, but you need to stand in queue to be able to book the tickets. Today, with the digitization, today with the IRCTC the way it is, I think it's all happening at the click of a button. So there is a huge spike in platform-based working that we are all seeing today. And I think if you see the world of railways today, and then replicate it across everything that you see happening around the world, we would see full-time workers, virtual talent cloud. So this is where the IRCTC folks sit. You can't see them. You don't know who's booking your ticket. It's a platform, it's a system that is booking your ticket. But there is a brain behind it. There are people behind it who sit and design platforms to be able to get the experience done. For that matter, even the platform staff today, or the railway platform staff today, are employees of IRCTC in many ways, or contractors of IRCTC who pay a fee to be contracting with them. And I think we have moved away from demand-based model to hybrid model to sharing model. No longer do we acquire talent. We talk about sharing talent. We talk about consuming talent. And that is what we are seeing in, be it in Uber, Ola, or if you stayed in bigger towns and cities like Bangalore, you would see Urban Claps, you would see Swiggy, and all of that happening a lot more. And all of this has given huge amount of agility, speed, and collaboration. And that's what has been happening in the recent past. And we'll see how it is going to impact people like you and I in just a bit. So, just about a bit of stats again. 43% of highly qualified women with children are leaving careers or off ramping for a period of time. 45% of women are unable to make a comeback from maternity leaves. 54% look for flexibility as a huge benefit while taking a new job. 30% are leaving full-time jobs for gig work due to lack of flexibility and independence. 35% of women are turning into entrepreneurs and establishing their own business. My wife used to be working as a full-time professional in an organization. Last year, she took a decision to take break from work, and she became entrepreneur herself. She used to teach music even in the past during weekends. Now that has become her full-time passion and work as well, which is a classic example of where the world of work is moving, especially for women, where I think a lot of organizations like ourselves are also doing a lot more to be able to attract talent in the gig model. But even otherwise, I think women are making the decision to become entrepreneurs themselves, and that's what we need a lot more. And we will see why in the next few slides. So when what if becomes what now, will you have an answer? That's another question that I would have for you. Would love your perspectives on the chat as well. As we move, the next question that I have for you is: could you prepare for the jobs that don't exist by learning skills that do? So, what are the skills that we need to be able to do well for ourselves? Innovation and creativity, right? I think if you think about what we saw in the 11 months, I don't think we could have survived through the 11 months without innovation and creativity. Businesses that probably were on the verge of bankruptcy are now into something totally different. And that requires a lot more innovation and creativity. And that's what I think is important for each one of us on a day in, day out basis. Don't conform, try to be innovative in many ways. Analytical and logical thinking, time management, tech savvy. No longer can we afford to say that, you know what, I don't have a laptop, I don't have a broadband connection, I don't have a webcam, um, I want to do business. Well, you can't do business without these bare minimum stuff. And it's important that we know how to use them for ourselves, because the world that sees us today sees us through the platforms and technologies that has enabled us. Otherwise, I don't think I would have been in a position to be even talking, to be able to talk to yourself today without a platform. Probably I would have had to come down to Kerala or Trivandrum and had a conversation like this in person. Networking. We'll talk a lot more about networking in the next few slides. Negotiation skills, learning and unlearning. The world that we are in, which is a VUCA world that we all know, requires us to be very agile in the learning approaches as well, because what we think is something that is relevant today may lose its relevance tomorrow. So just merely having graduation and post graduation degrees don't help. You gotta invest on the right skills, that right skills that are important for that job, and not end there or stop there. Continue upskilling, reskilling for the roles that you play. But most importantly, have the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn, because every other gig or every other role that you do would require you to unlearn stuff and relearn in many cases. But it's the experience that is going to matter the most. So have that acumen to learn and unlearn and relearn as quickly as possible. Communication skills, business management skills, organizational skills, and brand marketing and communication skills. Um, these are the skills that we need for surviving today as professionals, and we could be anyone for that matter. We could be someone who is starting our career, we could be someone who is in the mid career wanting to start an entrepreneurial journey, we could be someone who probably is an entrepreneur himself or herself and wants to improve upon the business that we do. And I think analytical thinking and innovation, we spoke about this. Complex problem solving, the problems that we are seeing already through COVID, and the amount of micro pandemics that we will continue to see as predictions are to be made, we will have to understand the complexities of the problems that exist and come up with solutions that are relevant for those complexities. Active learning and learning strategies, we can't be passive about it. We can't say that, okay, I'll think about this next year maybe. I think investing in oneself and then expecting a return on investment is the right way of looking at things, versus just expecting ROI without even making any investments. Critical thinking and analysis, resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility. Um, I can't speak enough and more about this, because I think this is bare minimum that I think has helped us all sail through in the last 10, 11 months. But stress tolerance is utmost important. A lot of articles are there about how to manage stress. There are point of views, if you look at from a meditative or spiritual point of view, which says Stress is not to be managed because I think it's our inability to understand and expect things out of lives that is causing a lot more stress from us, for us rather. So I would encourage you all to read up more about this and find the right answer for yourself that helps you. Technology design and programming, emotional intelligence, having the right a set of empathy towards everything that is happening around us in the world is extremely important, because if we don't have that basic skill, we will not have the right mindset to be able to get more business for ourselves. When we are talking about the world of work, it requires a lot more people with a lot more entrepreneurial mindset, and I think that's what is extremely important. Creativity, originality, and initiative, leadership and social influence, reasoning, problem solving, and ideation. These are skills, and these are not something that I'm recommending. These are even there in the World Economic Forum report. A great source for you all to learn a lot more about what's happening in the world, and probably come up with strategies that you can use to improve yourselves and everything that you do for your organization or even the business that you run. So, a bit on career planning exercise, if we were to take that route, just a bit of deep dive. Identify the characteristics of your ideal lifestyle, right? What would they be? 2 hours of quality time with kids every night, earn 5 lakhs per annum, 30 minutes of travel time to work, two holidays per year, work in a team, etc. I mean, if this were to be your dream so called career opportunity, does your current career allow you to achieve this ideal lifestyle? That's a question that you may want to ask yourselves. Likes and dislikes. What are your likes and dislikes at work? Make two lists. What activities do you enjoy? Which activities would you rather avoid? Does your current job have more likes than dislikes? Again, few good questions for you to ponder, think about. Strengths and weaknesses. Put yourself in the shoes of a potential employer. What are your key strengths and weaknesses? Think experience, qualifications, training ability, attitude, and knowledge. Right? More than happy for you to take a quick screenshot of this. Maybe help you in the future. Maybe you can reflect upon these at leisure. Personality. Does your current career fit within your personality type? Are you an introvert or an extrovert? Do you like to learn by doing or by thinking and reflecting? Do you like the variety and changes to the work that you complete, or do you like routine and certainty? These are very powerful questions for you to really answer. And even if you were to be in a great job right now, it's important for you to have answers to these, because a lot of things have changed for everybody in the last 11 months, and it's going to be a good exercise for us to um, really look and think about what do we want to do. Preparing for career success. Take a stock of current situation, whatever be it. Visualize your future. Learn more about yourself. Access your traits and skills. Most important. You may be in at any stage of career in your life. Um, Accessing your traits and skills are the utmost important thing in today's times, because the world of work is moving towards skill based selections, attitude based selections, traits based selections, and very little about purely experienced or qualifications based selections. And I think you would need to reflect a little deeper on that particular piece. Explore your options, and I have a few good insights into exploring options and what you can do in the next few slides. Make goals, make your choices, and develop an action plan for yourself. Right? Um, Visualize your future. Ask yourself these powerful questions. What impact do I want to make in the world through my career? Right? Purpose is extremely important for us. Are we in the job with the right purpose, or are we totally in misalignment with what we're doing? If I could be or do anything, anywhere, anytime, what would I be doing? Very important question that you may want to ask yourself. Again, relevant for everybody, not just to someone who is starting their career, or not something for probably even. I mean, it's open for all. I myself ask these questions to myself every day, because it's that um, uh, routine, I would say, that has helped us all sail through in the last 11 months. What would I be working on? How would I spend my personal time in the world that we are living right now? There are no boundaries where we can clearly demarcate, saying that this is my professional time, this is my work time, this is my learning time, this is my family time. It's all at once, right? Uh, uh, you end up working over the weekends as well. So, how do I spend my personal time? Take your time finding answers. Try not to limit yourself, right? Picture of what you want clearly in your mind. Who am I with? Which organization are you with? What are you doing? Is the important question. And record your thoughts in detail. Um, Document it, share it with people, find a mentor. I think it would be great for you to talk through some of these things with the right mentors as well. Learn more about yourself. What motivates me? How, what do I feel strongly or passionately about? What does work mean to me? What satisfaction does work bring? What parts of work do I value? What type of roles would interest me? Right? And I think these are, I would say, exercises that we need to do all the more seriously in times like these, because the world of work is changing, as well as the ways of doing businesses are also evolving, right? And I think in many ways, in the last 6 months of lockdown, we have found ourselves in a situation where we are now able to think about all of these with a lot more focus on. I may want to I may want to correct some of the things that I have an opportunity to do right now. And I think this was not something that was available or possible in a situation where we were last year, where it was all about commuting to work, getting the work done, coming back home, getting the daily chores taken care of, Monday to Friday, Monday to Sunday, the same thing, right? So start now. Be a perpetual learner. Read to breadth in your field. As they say, you need to know 1 inch deep, 1 mile wide about everything that you should be aware about. Find your inner storyteller. Practice your listening skills. Ask questions, better questions. What are my options? What jobs are available? How many jobs do you want to apply for each week? How many companies do you want to research? What kind of openings can you apply for? What can I do differently? What different job roles am I equipped to do other than what I handle? Whom should I connect with? And I think these are really important questions. And you may want to take a screenshot of this as well as you listen to this. Um, so, how can what you learn transform who you become? Another better question for you. We'll transition into gig economy. And what is gig economy, right? Gig economy is an environment where temporary positions are common and organizations contract with independent workers for short-term engagement. Um, and is this something that is brand new and we haven't seen this happen in the past? We discussed about the Indian Railway scenario. This was always there, but in a different form. What what has changed in the last 10 years is the digitization of economy, right? Internets across the world are connecting us like never before. Focus on application building, focus on iOS and Android based apps, focus on connecting rural India with high speed internet, connecting the rural India and towns and cities with data on 4G and 5G eventually, has made this possible, where you don't really need to wait to engage with someone. Like I remember, and I'm sure you all remember this as well. There used to be a time in 1980s where when you had to call someone or speak to someone, you had to book a trunk call. Then came the era of STDs. Then came the era of mobile, where you could call anyone any time. Today, I think we have evolved a lot more, and we don't really feel the need to call people, but we can still stay connected through WhatsApp, Facebook, and several other social media platforms. So, gig economy is digitization of the way of work that used to happen, purely need based and short term. So everything is on demand, right? And it just is going to make things a lot more efficient in the way things are happening right now. So who is a freelancer? And we heard Divya share a bit of that earlier in this session as well. And an individual or a person who's self-employed, seeks short-term assignments, jobs, and are not committed to single employer or for long term. These individuals may engage with more than one company, and the nature of engagement is on a contract. Typically, a freelancer works remotely, manages time across 24 by 7 versus a full time employee who works for 9 hours a day or 45 hours a week. And when I say 24 by 7, doesn't mean that you end up working 24 by 7, but the thought that I'm trying to share is you typically have the freedom to choose which out of those 24 hours and which out of those 7 days you want to work, and you get to choose when you would take a day off. And that's how businesses operate any which ways, isn't it? There are cities, there are towns where they give one day off. It could be probably a Monday or a Tuesday, because you get a lot more traffic on during the weekends. My wife, for that matter, works. I mean, she's the most busy on Saturdays and Sundays because a lot of music students are available on that day, and she takes multiple batches on Saturdays and Sundays. Whereas she prefers to take a day off on Friday, which makes it easier for us so that we can spend some time together. So that's the whole idea that you should probably be open to explore further. How is it beneficial for women? Autonomy. Talking about autonomy, you get to develop a new skill set predominantly every day. You just don't need to restrict yourself to anything that you do. You will be on the go learning about new stuff. How do I go about digital marketing? How do I go about getting this report right? How do I sell to my customers better? All of that. You can control your workload. You can say no. You can learn to say no when you can't take on more work. You define the quality of work and adhere to the parameters and deliver the outcome. Income can be controlled, where you can fix a price point for yourself. You can determine what's your budget, what's the revenue that you want to earn in a month. It could be 1 lakh in a month, it could be 10 lakhs in a month, it could be nothing for a month because you're going to be in. You have the ability to have the best in class work life balance. Probably is something that is most sought after in times like these. Empowerment. Understanding the current market scenario trend and thereby using that to your advantage to either do something different, find a different product or a service that you want to use to get into the market. Introduction of online labor market, where you are part of a larger ecosystem. You get to collaborate and work with a lot more people, and you're part of a shared economy. So you don't really have to really say that, oh, I have to start all by myself. The answer is no. I think the platforms these days, like to the likes of Upwork, Fiverr, allow you to start almost instantaneously with the minimal funding requirement. Financial stability. You can get to track your income, and it is important for you to track your income because you're not in a zone where you get salaries every month. You're going to be getting paid the fees for the services that you render for the client. You get to set the competitive rate. You if you think this job that you're doing requires you to get paid 1,000 rupees per hour, the next could be 8,000 rupees per hour. You set the competitive rate because you would want to win the business. So set a rate which is most competitive and attractive for the client to pay you, and yet demand the rate for the work that you do. Make your own schedule of work, create a budget, most important. Work life balance it a bit deeper, understand the lines between work and life. We spoke about this. Set a schedule, very important. Otherwise, it will go haywire in terms of uh, our inability to get the work done and not finding a work life balance. Set aside a work time or set aside a family time and designate a workspace. Don't probably convert your kitchen or your bedroom or your balcony into a temporary workspace. Those may be great. Maybe during the day you may want to spend some time there, but it's important for you to have the right designated workspace wherever you are. That just allows you to focus a lot more better, and be more productive, and that way you can definitely find time for you to be able to get the work done. The future of work or gig work, and there is an interesting report which says 61% of women gig workers would like to manage gig work as their full-time career, right? 43% of professionals are on freelance websites like Upwork, 99 Designs, and so on. 32% directly sell their services in through Medicare and several other platforms. 30% are on service platforms like TaskRabbit, Care.com, and so on. And I think I mean, the platform-based economy is growing at a very rapid pace in India, and you would see that by 2021, almost 50% of our workforce will be in some or the other form of platform-based economy. A recent survey done by PayPal says that 40% of people who started their platform journey have seen growth in the last 11 months of the work on platform economy, which means that gig economy is growing and growing at a faster pace that you and I can think about, right? So how do you transition from full-time to gig work? Understand what is involved in a gig. Don't approach gig like a full-time job. Don't approach the gig role as some something where you have to go and apply for a gig job. You got to be a lot more entrepreneurial. Find a way to get the right understanding of gig economy, right? And I think that's the endeavor that I'm sharing as well, where I'm I think one of the things people do not understand is um, registering on uh, sites like Upwork or Fiverr doesn't guarantee you gig jobs. Not that probably LinkedIn or Naukri gives you, but the onus of finding jobs is through the network that you have. And we'll talk about networking in the next few minutes. Network that you have. How do you pitch yourself in the business? How do you understand who you are and why you want to be doing this business a lot more better? And how can you articulate that, right? Ensure you manage your work time, work from home remotely, plan your technology and workspace. We spoke about this. But when I say technology, have the right assets, have the right ecosystem to take care of all the work that you do. Keep a track of your income, budget for health insurance. A lot of organizations ensure that people are covered for their health situation. But when people are on their own, they don't invest in health insurance. And I think it's extremely important whether you are working in as an employee somewhere or if you are on your own. COVID has proven one thing, that no matter how much ever you are insured, it is going to be less. So I would say go ahead, buy yourself an health insurance immediately as much as possible. And this is my personal advice, as a friend, colleague, guide. I can say that I've seen a lot of people suffer because of not being enough or adequately insured. Prioritize your work accordingly. Start connecting with influential people who can make introductions and referrals, right? So how can the experience of change unlock the extraordinary? That's an important question that I have for you. Set smart goals, develop an action plan. When I say smart, be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-related goals. Develop an action plan, which is step-by-step strategy to reach goals. Start with your goals and plan backwards, right? And I think that's the most important thing. Having learned all of this, the key here is how will your talents be more visible when you may not be? We're all living in a virtual world, and it's going to stay for a while. Uh, Virtual world at times is challenging, but is also very good, because you don't really need to restrict yourself to one city, one town, one geography. You can probably sell your services across the world or wherever you can. Uh, Again, like my wife, she teaches to students sitting in Mumbai, Hyderabad, though we stay in Bangalore. Um, so I think geography is not a constraint anymore. But how will your talents be more visible when you may not be? A bit on networking and why is it important for us? A lot of people, when they hear this term networking, say, "Oh, you know what? I'm very introvert. I don't prefer being on platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I would like, I would prefer to be, um, um, I mean, doing my work and let my work speak for it." Well, just a piece of advice for them. The world of work is virtual right now, and we would like to see the work in the platforms like all of these. And we're talking about platforms like Upwork and several others where it is all virtual again. And I think it's important to be visible. And we'll talk about a bit on personal branding as well. But networking is less hunting and more gardening, right? People typically think, okay, I will go to LinkedIn, I'll add 150 connections a day, reach somewhere. Well, that's not what I'm saying. It requires a lot more gardener's mindset. Hunting is very transactional, which is what we saw, whereas gardening is cyclical, ongoing. You're weeding, you're planting, you're watering, you're nurturing, and that's the nature of networking, right? Um, so, a bit more about networking. Crafting a fabric of personal contacts to provide support, feedback, insight, and resources is very important, right? A supportive system of sharing information and services amongst individuals and groups having common interest is what we are looking at. Networks deliver three unique advantages, and which is absolutely important for all of you in whatever um, um, category you belong to in terms of where and how you're looking for jobs or your careers. Private information, which typically is not available, access to diverse skill sets, right? You may end up learning something very new from someone just by talking to them or interacting with them. In the last 11 months, I can tell you for sure that I have interacted with so many people, which I can't believe that I could have done in the last. I mean, if it not were to be for COVID and the lockdown, and it has just made me a lot more better as a professional in whatever I do. It also gives you influence and power, right? And there is a reason networking has a word work in it, which means you got to work into your network. It doesn't happen by itself. And I think I would say have a strategy in place about how you would want to network. If you're on a entrepreneurial journey, I would suggest do a couple of courses on digital marketing and understand the true power of digital marketing, and how you would want to position yourself on that. Extremely important for all of you. Even if you are working for an organization, it's still very important, because now we are in a world where everything is digital, and we would rather work towards positioning ourselves better and thereby improving our brand, right? So, future proofing your network. Make a list of categories of people who can support you, your future success: industry leaders, role models, and mentors. Do you have people who represent the categories in your network to the core? If not, what relations need to be formed? Who can act as a broker? It could be someone who you connected with in just a few days ago, or it could be someone who you would want to connect first and then reach out to the third person. Which categories are not represented? Which relationships are under nurtured? All of these are extremely important as you move along in your entrepreneurial journey or a freelancer journey, right? So next steps: spend time continuing to assess your current network with an eye towards future. Leverage the power of virtual networking. There are tons of platforms that are available today, and you can probably start with LinkedIn and Facebook, or and Insta or Twitter for that matter. We often think about all of these platforms in a very different or a negative manner, but I think each one of them has a strong potential to help you. Schedule and prioritize time for networking. There is no quick path to authentic and meaningful relationships. And I think we all need to learn a very important skill called patience while networking with people as well, because it doesn't happen automatically. So why is it important, right? Having an online presence is almost non-negotiable, because 58% of organizations do social screenings to look for candidates' qualifications. 50% want to ensure that the candidate has professional online persona, right? As a recruiter, I can say that I would look at how strong is your LinkedIn profile, what do people talk about you, what are your perspectives about current situation, and so on. 34% want to see what others are posting about you. 24% check social media and search for reasons not to hire someone, which means not the answer to this is not to be on social media. The answer to this is, how can I create a stronger presence and be consistent across all the platforms? You can't be person A in LinkedIn, you can't be person B or C in Insta and Facebook. How can you be consistent in whatever you do? And invest in yourself, invest on creating a CV. So a lot of people ask me this question as to CVs, are they relevant? And I think uh, as a career transitions coach as well, a lot of people end up sending their CVs to me, and my question, when I take a look at their CVs, sometimes people would send me a 7-page word CV, which is basically a combination of all the jobs that they have done. They wouldn't even take a little bit of effort to change the JDs. They would paste it verbatim as is, grammatically a lot more incorrect, etc. Well, without going into that too much, the situation we have today is, for one particular job you get at least about 1,000 applications. So if a recruiter has to source a profile, on an average they spend less than 3 seconds looking at a CV, and it has to be made appealing, it has to be made interesting, it has to be in the format that ensures that you are represented appropriately, and it has to be taken extremely seriously. But now we live in a virtual world where everything is going to be digital. So do we want to do a traditional CV or a video CV? And I think a lot of organizations in the last 6 months have shifted from in-person interviews to video interviews through platforms, which means you got to brush up your digital skills, which means you got to know how do you represent yourself on the platforms and interview using collaborative tools like probably AirMeet, Zoom, Teams, and several other platforms. So how about creating a value proposition document? How about doing a 30-second video about who you are, what do you do, why do you do what you do, and what could you do for the organization? How could you build synergies for an organization, within the organization, with the organization? Um, Create a CV that is in alignment with job requirements, I would say. Focus on just about last 5 years of experience and not beyond that. Like if you have 20 years of experience, I think what is most important is, can I just reflect on what I did in the last 5 years, and that's what is going to be more relevant. Focus on your achievements. People often forget this. People think that merely putting tasks that you were responsible for is enough. I would rather want to know, what did you do and that was a huge impact for the organization. People often forget this. People don't think that it is important. Interview is not a stage to share these. I think it's a CV, so it has to begin with the CV. where you talk about the impact that you created within the organization. It could be growth, it could be sales, it could be revenue, a higher revenue, it could be process improvements and several other stuff, right? Make it keyword friendly. Understand what are the keywords that suits the most for your kind of profile, and make it keyword friendly so that it becomes easier for people to search your profile online. Ensure that it is properly formatted and check for grammars and spellings. I would say seek professional help in this space if you think you can't do it yourself. Very important. It is important that you get an opportunity to represent yourself in the right light versus not representing yourself at all, right? So, could being at your best help us build a better working world, right? So, 10 tips that I can share for the next gig. Research about the company. Wherever you go, know about them inside out as much as possible. Use your network, use your connections. Tons of content is available online today about everything that you want to know about the organization, but research well. Find your inner storyteller. You have enough and more stories that you can share in the last 1 year itself that you can convert it into a story and share. Um, Storytelling is coming back to become one of the most sought after skills, and I would say as a as a country we are great storytellers, and I would say the way we have told stories, I mean, be it our grandparents, be it our parents, the stories that they have told us, be it us, what we tell our kids. And I think it is just about replicating that same philosophy, putting the business context to it, sharing that with people. And that's what is most important. Can you create a sense of pride and an achievement when you speak about what you did to people around you? um, Prepare for questions, both personal and professional. At times it could be the game changer as well. Craft a perfect career statement, very important. Unique selling proposition. What will make you stand out from the rest? In the gig world, it is extremely important for you to know what is it that you do differently, and why is it that someone should give the work to you. And that's the entrepreneurial challenge that everyone goes through. What makes you so different, or what will make you so different? What is your uniqueness? Have concrete answers back with data and facts, right? Let your interviewer complete his questions or her questions. Listen carefully and answer accordingly. Maintain appropriate body language. In a world where we are in virtual um, setup, ensure that you have the right setup to have at least a webcam and a good headset so that you're seen well, you're heard well. And please make those investments if you haven't made already, and wear a positive attitude no matter what the outcome of the conversation is. um, Reach out to the same person again, thank him or her for the opportunity that they provided, and probably be in touch. You may not be able to land yourself an opportunity, but you can refer people who could be deserving that opportunity. A bit on gig now. We run this program called gig now, where we always are on the lookout for best in class talent with diverse abilities for short term needs for everything that we do within EY in terms of the businesses. So the roles that we hire for are purely business roles, and at times also internships as well. So we are always on the lookout for good, high quality talent for the work that we do. And I would encourage all of you to sign up on gignow.com, and you will find a lot of opportunities listed there. If you think there are opportunities that you suit the most, feel free to apply. It's very simple. www.gignow.com. If you have a LinkedIn account, the sign up is even more easier. And I look forward to see you all and meet you all on the platform. Why should you? Uh, I think it just helps you to be the best, reinvent yourself in terms of your identity, productive usage of your leisure time, redefine career success, a career that I would say where you get paid best in class in terms of compensation and benefits. We don't differentiate anyone who is on gig from that of an employee. For us, both of them are same and integral part of the overall workforce ecosystem. And I would strongly encourage you to research a lot more on gig economy and sign up on gig now. So with that, I would have the last question, which opens up for questions. So could the questions you ask today help build a better tomorrow? Are we all there? All right, I see good questions in there. Divya? Okay, I see a question from, yes. Considering the concept of women in power, what could be the solution to create ecosystem for women passionpreneurs so that they can contribute to economy of respective territory, thereby overcome current pandemic outbreak turmoil? That's a very interesting and an important question. Um, I would say, I think platforms. I don't know what you do, Umer, in terms of the work that you do, but I think platforms are extremely important, uh, and are going to be game changer in many ways, right? Uh, the current challenge that we have is that of abundance of talent available, lack of supply or perceived lack of supply because we don't have access to information about who is where and is has what skills to be able to get the work done, right? And having a right platform that matches the demand and supply is what is the need of the hour. So if you think there could be, if you think you have enough and more business problem statements that requires a resolution, and if you think there is an appetite for people to invest into platforms where we can have the demands from the businesses and you can find the right supply pool to be able to drive the growth, I think that's what is the answer that is needed.
So, thank you, Mr. Gopal, for the wonderful presentation. So, we have received a couple of questions, and some of the common questions we received was how
Divya, you're breaking. I don't know if it's my internet or if it's yours.
Hello, Divya. Hello.
I think we lost her connection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sir, actually, the questions are in the questions tab itself. So, just.
Okay, let me go and check that. All
Yeah.
right. I was checking in the chat section. Okay. Hi, I'm Nandini, already working as a freelancer. I have two questions to know how to take my career forward along with freelancing. I think I shared response to this in my presentation. So if there is still a question, let me know.
Yes.
I'm coming from a
Excuse me,
creative.
sir. Divya joined. Divya, can you please continue?
yes, so I was asking, I was telling that the common question we received was how the freelancers can get a new next job and or next gig work. So that is a common question we received.
Sure. So as I said, I covered this in my chat earlier. Gig working is not to be looked upon as a way to seek jobs, right? I mean, it is have. I mean, I would say wear an entrepreneurial mindset. hat of an entrepreneur. If you were to be an entrepreneur, what will you do? Like, how will you go about identifying why do you want to be in the business? How do you go about identifying who is your customer? Who is going to buy your services? What is the price point that he or she will pay for your services? How would you position yourself? Like, what will be your unique selling proposition to this client or customer? And then come up with strategies around it. And when I say strategies, then it should have a platform strategy, then it should have a website strategy, then it should have. So, how do people know more about who you are, what you do, right? So, I would say read up a lot on how can you be an entrepreneur to begin with, right? And there are tons of materials available on that, and courses that you can take as well. But do not approach gig jobs or freelancing as a way to find jobs. If you are highly skilled in something, absolutely, all you need to do is convert that skill into how to monetize those skills. And again, that requires to have an entrepreneurial mindset. How do you sell that skill as a service to someone is what is freelancing and gig economy all about. And that's what my piece of advice to you all be.
Hello.
Yes.
And we have another question from Revati. She's a freelancer content developer. So she's asking the importance of personal branding for freelancing that you explained and provided tips. Also, the ways to do it. So if you could provide.
Yeah, so I covered this in the session itself. So I think if you if Revati you listen to me, I think you could probably recall the slides where I walked you through as well. The second part is most important in my view. Saving money as a freelancer, since we don't have PF or insurances or like a full time employee. So again, as I said, um, the government of India is doing quite a few things in terms of bringing in gig workers and platform workers under the ambit of labor law, labor code. So the new social security code provides for these benefits for freelancers and gig workers as well. Of course, it's not in implementation as yet. It will take a while, but I would say bake that into when you are pricing your role, right? Pricing the work that you're doing. So if you think you are you would have quoted 1,000 rupees for something, you should also think about margins, right? So ability to do business is utmost important in a situation like this, where you need to have a very strong understanding of what your operational costs are, what your margin should be, and what your pricing should be. And only then you will be able to factor in all of these aspects that you have asked me. And if you think about a classic parallel that I can draw today for you is, if you were to take a cab from Trivandrum airport to home, or Cochin airport to home, you get picked up by a driver, and at the end of the drive ride he will charge you a fee. uh, Take a look at the breakdown of the cost, right? If he has charged you 300 rupees, what does that breakdown contain? It will have the actual fuel expenses and the per kilometer ride cost, and then it will have a GST, CGST, SGST, and all of that. And then you will also need to have a fair understanding of what gets into, like, how is the per kilometer cost derived. And it is typically costs of acquisition of a car, the fuel costs, the driver's salary, the costs towards insurances, the cost towards road taxes, etc. And that's predominantly similar across all the states, but also includes margins. So have a view on what margin you want to make for everything that you do. If you're working for an organization more like a part-time worker or a contractor, I think you still get paid salaries with PF and all of that, right? That's not a problem. It's only in the case where you're directly working with a client, you need to have a view on what are you going to make in terms of your fee.
So, thank you for answering that. And Mr. Fabin Fawaz, he's a researcher. So, he's asking, is there any suitable platform available for bioinformatics?
I wouldn't know that, to be honest, Fabin. You could just go ahead and do your search. I think, again, finding the right information through Google is the most important thing, right? If you were to Google, I'm sure you will find something or the other. Uh, have an agile mindset. You may want to start something somewhere with a view to get more details on this information. Start it. Uh, you may learn out of it, learn, move on, and do more.
So, I'll read out a question from Bets. So, he's from creative media background. And would it be a good idea to create a professional website for one's own, given that work has done digital more than even before? Once made, how does one make it more visible for prospective employers?
I would recommend you to go through the digital marketing course, my friend. It gives you a very deep down details of the importance of having a website strategy, platform strategy. How do you go about it? What strategic investments do you need to make in terms of getting more visibility to your prospective employers or customers? I would say customers and clients, not employers. We should refrain always talking about this as an employee employer relationship. It's a customer client and a service provider relationship, mostly in gig working. So I would strongly encourage you to look at it this way.
Yes, Nantini has another question that uh, is that possible to get into full-time workforce by utilizing gig opportunities?
I mean, I don't see a challenge in that, but depends on, you should have the clarity of what you want to do and whether you will be able to manage both together. There are some organizations who may have restrictions in terms of you not being able to work in a part-time job when you're in a gig role, or vice versa, or a full-time role. Sorry. So you may want to understand the nuances based on which organizations you're working for. But again, do what is important, do whatever you do with the best of your abilities, and I think you would not be tempted to do both together.
So I think we have covered almost all the questions. So I would like to thank Mr. Gopal for giving a great start for this bootcamp. And you have covered all the aspects of gig economy, its practice, models of platforms working on it, and provided tips for the freelancers and shared importance of branding and profiling themselves. So I thank you once again uh, for giving a great start for this bootcamp.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the opportunity. I would look forward to um, one, staying in touch with all of you. So feel free to send me connection request on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, is this also being hosted live on YouTube?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and look at any questions that may be there directly on YouTube as well, and try to respond to those as well. But I would say, um, my 2 cents at the end of this session is, look at this as an opportunity to make a business out of this for yourself, where think about this as an entrepreneur. And this will help you even in doing your job as an employee a lot more better. So think about gig economy, gig work as an entrepreneurial venture. Have the entrepreneurial mindset or a gig mindset, and I'm sure you will be able to do a lot more better in your career. I know it's tough times. It's not been easy for us as a nation, but I would encourage all of you to be having the right positive mindset. So be positive. But lastly, as I say, be corona negative.
So we have received a couple more questions, so I can share you with that
Sure.
later offline. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you so much. Hello. Thank you so much. The next session is a panel discussion. The session will start by 12 o'clock. All are requested to stay online. We will start the session by 12 o'clock. We are taking a break now.